Hi, everyone. I am sorry for the silence the last few weeks. It's sometimes hard to balance doing the work and also sharing about this work with you. It was so much fun to be able to be with so many of you over the last few weeks at different stops and initiatives on the Civic Renaissance Tour. I'll share with you just a few updates, and I'm behind as well. I think the next Civic Renaissance issue will be reflections on Japan and also some insights derived from that trip and the Civic Renaissance Tour launch there in Tokyo, which was an enormous amount of fun a few weeks ago. But I'll update you on what happened last week on the Civic Renaissance Tour stop in Colorado Springs. A few years ago, Lori and Lisa reached out to me, two lovely women in Colorado Springs. They're wives, moms of multiple children, and they had encountered my book. A friend had gifted them a copy of The Soul of Civility, and they said, they just had a vision for it. So they reached out to me with this vision, and the vision was to build something around civility and the ideas of my book in Colorado Springs. Additionally, they have a heart for gathering, for getting people together, which is an increasingly rare thing in this era of digitally mediated interactions. And they contacted me about hosting an event. They said, we want to convene and gather around these ideas, and we think other people do as well. So when they first contacted me, literally about 2 years ago, it was May of 2023, 24, I didn't have an iota of bandwidth for one more thing. So I connected them with I was kind of in survival mode in the midst of my house renovation, in the midst of being in 100 plus cities with my 3 young children on book tour. And so I connected them with a very energetic city councilor in Carmel, Indiana, who had also expressed a lot of enthusiasm around bringing these ideas to life in his community of Carmel. And so connected them, and together they put on the Civility Summit that happened back in September, where we gathered 100 mayors, city councilors, journalists, people from across politics, geography, and vocation, passionate about bringing the ideas of the soul of civility off the page and into practice. And that was beautiful, that was exciting, that was inspiring. And after that, in September, we doubled down to focus on 2 things together. One was cultivating the leaders in this community, in Civic Renaissance, and the Civic Renaissance Ambassador Program, leaders who are, again, building institutions around this work in their local ecosystems, starting with theirs themselves. And then for them, also doubling down on Colorado Springs. Like, what is this going to look like? How will this serve our community? And finally, we did it. They've been a part of this community for years now, and they have been gifting copies of my book to city councilors, to local leaders. They're just such incredible advocates of these ideas. And so really, I'll walk you through what happened last week, Monday and Tuesday, because it really did. What's happened in Colorado Springs really has been part of the pattern that I've been seeing. I have this document called The Soul of Civility in Action, and it's really a Civic Renaissance playbook. And it's what I have observed as communities have brought the ideas of my book to life. So it's more descriptive than prescriptive. And again, this is what happened, here in their community. So the first phase is the discover phase, and that's when a community reads my book together. And they have been gifting my book to mayors in their region and leaders across their community, saying, read this book, that we want this to be our community book read in the coming years. And so and that's a really important part of this process, that a community and ecosystem read my book together, because it just gives a shared vocabulary, a shared intellectual foundation. What are we aiming for? We're not just aiming for politeness, more manners or etiquette. We're aiming for true civility, an internal disposition of the heart, a way of seeing others as our moral equals worthy of respect just by virtue of our shared dignity and personhood. And so that's a really helpful kind of shared basis for this work. And then launches the ignite phase, and that's when I come to a community. So over last Monday and Tuesday, March 31st and April 1st, is that correct? In Colorado, what is time? Sorry, I've been home from Japan and in like half a dozen cities since that a few weeks ago. So all over the country a little bit. So what is time? But the point is, we had an incredible convening. They first curate. They worked for months putting this on. They had a VIP reception hosted at the University of Colorado Springs, and we had, again, just a beautiful cross section of community leaders in education, in political leadership, in civic life. We had philanthropists there, and it was it was great to be able to invite Braver Angels, the Braver Angels community, to be part of it, and the brand new CEO of Braver Angels. I guess he's been in the job 6 months now. Maury Giles was in town for this as well, which was great to be able to partner with them and their local community in Colorado Springs. And there, we both got to share a little bit about our work with the VIP group before going on stage together. So Maury gave some great remarks on courageous citizenship, and then we were in dialogue. We were in conversation about this work of civic renewal. And I had the privilege of casting a vision for Colorado Springs. What might an era of multi-dimensional human flourishing look like here, where our differences are not sources of consternation and frustration, but they are sources of joy and a source of our shared flourishing as well. And the reality is, and I got to learn this firsthand being Colorado Springs when I spoke to so many local leaders there, difference has not been a source of joy and flourishing in Colorado Springs of late. It's gotten very vicious, very, very controversial. One example of a challenge that local leaders there are facing was about the development of a Buc-ee's in one community in Colorado Springs. And it got very toxic very quick, where people said, I live in the mountains and I don't want, a fluorescent, nightlight going 24/7, disrupting the beautiful scenery and landscape. And others said, we have a real fiscal crisis, and this is an answer to our fiscal crisis. And there was just, the difference didn't bring out the best in people who were involved at that. In fact, it brought up the worst. And so right now, the Buc-ee's is on hold. It's not happening. But there's still a lot of woundedness and hurt feelings. And this is what I'm seeing across the country, that local leaders are trying to navigate these difficult, challenges. And it's not even about the Buc-ee's. It could be a data center. It could be a bike lane. It could be so many different things. But we're just not. It's not about whether we're having disagreement. It's are we doing disagreement well? Are we maintaining the humanity and inherent dignity, the imago Dei of the other, as we engage in difference? That's the test. And then are we reconciling at the end of a difficult conversation? Those are two, key points that help, that predict whether difference will bring out the best in us and actually strengthen the relationship, because that's what difference and disagreement has the chance to do. If you reconcile after controversy, there is a chance that difference can be a source of strengthening friendship and relationships, or it can destroy it. And so that's the vision I cast, for the region of Colorado Springs. What might an era of multi-dimensional human flourishing look like, where we're not just gritting our teeth and enduring difference, but we are flourishing, we're thriving in light of it. And, what would a civic renaissance look like here? And it was great to be able to engage the members of the community and be in dialogue with Braver Angels about their important work in depolarization. And then the next day, we had a leaders roundtable. We had 40, again, the mayor of Colorado Springs came. We had, half the city council was there. We had mayors from other surrounding community members. We had municipal leaders, foundation heads, school board superintendents, and just a really beautiful cross section of the community in the room where we said, "What now?" Many of you have read the book and you've heard the talk last night. We know this is a problem. We're not flourishing across difference, but what do we do about it? And what are our marching orders? How are we going to leave this room and be part of the solution right now? We put together a sort of blueprint, and we have that we're still working at embodying. And that's so that was the ignite phase when I was there. And now that's launched the embody phase, where leaders are actually living this, and we're building, and we have so many ideas that are in the works that I don't want to share about prematurely, but lots of the the usual suspects came up, like how are we going to live this out in schools, in our workplaces, who else needs to be at this table, were we to do this again in a month or so, who do we need to make sure is here, who is essential, who is mission essential in building an era of multi-dimensional human flourishing here. And then a few months ago, I was contacted. I'd shared in Civic Renaissance about the Colorado Springs Civic Renaissance launch, and I was contacted by a gentleman named Will, who said, I run a foundation here in Colorado Springs, and I appreciate what you're doing, and I'd love to be part of whatever it is you're doing here. So connected with the Colorado ladies, and they are now both Civic Renaissance ambassadors, which I love, and they happen to be, they occupy different spheres in the community, and they're from different parts of the political spectrum, which I also love, and now they're on the same team, promoting and building an initiative around this work in their local community. And Will went above and beyond, and he said, I would like to host a lunch with local foundation heads, at our office, and he gifted copies of The Soul of Civility to them all in advance, that many of them came having read the book in advance. Many of them were at the events, the Leaders Roundtable, or the events the day prior. And we had a lunch and specifically looked at what is the role of philanthropy in building an era of multidimensional human flourishing. Looking back at history, patrons are an essential part of this work, whether it was the Medicis in Florence patronizing scholars and artists and all sorts of creators, really instantiating the unlocking of human potential that we are working towards. Where again, the goal is not just to not disagree. The goal isn't just to be undivided. The goal is actually to thrive. That's what we're all working towards here, and that's what the Civic Renaissance Tour is about, taking the ideas of this work and my book, The Soul of Civility, off the page and into practice. So endless thanks to Lori and Lisa for all of the beautiful work that you did to make these series of events happen and to serve your community and their leaders in that way. Thank you to Will for hosting this amazing lunch with 15, 20 foundation heads, and excited for the opportunities to serve Colorado Springs as a result of all of those meetings. So the Civic Renaissance Tour is officially launched in Colorado, and excited for what we might build. And if any of this resonates with you, if you're a local leader in your community, and if you are struggling, if you feel like the differences that you're navigating are not bringing out the best in you or the people that you're serving, if you're a leader in an organization and you're hungry for tools and a framework and a community that is seeking to build a world where we are thriving across difference, not just gritting our teeth and enduring it, please reach out. Would love to share, love to connect you, bring you into the fold with the Civic Renaissance program, and share these tools with you that I've learned. Like, I wrote this book, but again, I didn't, when I started getting contacted by these leaders who said, I've read your book, but now what? How do I live it? I didn't have answers. And now, after speaking with 150 plus cities and working with these community leaders over the last several years, I have answers just based on what's worked and what has been working and what has served leaders. And so excited to share those with you, and excited to keep building, working hard to get our home ready. We have a beautiful Italian Renaissance style estate that we've sacrificed a lot to restore the last few years, and so it feels really redeeming that we get to gather this really small, intimate group of leaders from across politics, geography, and vocation. This month, in just a few weeks, at my home, we'll have Mitch Daniels, former governor of Indiana. We'll have Daryl Davis, jazz musician who actively seeks out and befriends members of hate groups and converts them to the good through friendship, kindness, and curiosity and conversation, all the things that we care about, all the things that we are going to embody at the Civic Renaissance Retreat. Again, Daryl's work is so important because he shows us firsthand that our differences don't have to be things that bring out hatefulness and spite and vitriol. They can be sources of joy and mutual benefit and good and shared flourishing. So excited to learn from Mitch, excited to learn from Daryl, and then excited for the unconference component of the retreat, where we will all gather and say, okay, how is this going to take root in our lives? What does multidimensional human flourishing look like in our lives, in our communities, in our institutions, in our country? Where are we going from here? And we're going to embody it for that weekend, and then we're going to go build it. And I couldn't be more excited. If that sounds like something you want to be part of, write to me. This is an invitation-only event, and spaces are very limited. We've just a few weeks before the event, and we are nearly at capacity. But the most important thing is making room for the right people in the room. So that sounds like a room you want to be in, and you want to help us build this era of flourishing across difference. Would love to have you. So again, apologies for being offline the last few weeks. It's been a really riveting, fruitful season for this work, and excited to continue this work alongside you. So thank you for being part of the Civic Renaissance community.